What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you. And one that maybe initially wasn't on my radar, but I decided since, well, I have never actually listened to this band, much like this gentleman over here too. We figured, why not give them a whirl, because they've been around forever, and I've been meaning to check them out. And, well, new album's as good a place as any to start. So we're going to go over the latest offering from Evergrey, Theories of Emptiness. This also comes out on the 7th of June on Napalm Records. This band formed in Sweden in 1995. This is their 13th album overall, and again, the first one of theirs that I have ever jammed all the way through. I'm reasonably sure I've heard songs by this band. Like, they've been around forever. I'm sure they were on compilations from like Terrorizer and like Metal Hammer and so on, and I probably jammed them, and then maybe that was like the mid-2000s when I was only interested in anything like metalcore or melodeath related.
Right.
So I probably just skipped over it. Like, I heard clean vocals, went, no.
Right. Yeah, that's a very accurate assessment of that whole time period in life. You know, when you're getting into metal and you're like, yeah, this is heavy, and then somebody sings and you're like,
lame.
No.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I was in my like early to mid 20s. I wanted only angsty, heavy stuff. So I probably skipped over this band, and I have a feeling I've probably missed out on some really good stuff, and I'm sure the commenters will tell me. But yeah, for those that don't know anything about this band, this is progressive metal, progressive power metal. I don't know. It's kind of in both camps. I would say mostly progressive, at least with this one. Again, I don't have the back catalog to listen to. In fact, I think I had this band confused with Arion, I don't know. I've heard lots of good stuff from fans of this band, so I figured, why not?
Yeah, I've heard of this band over the years. I think I probably thought that they were black metal, and during my time in life when I was strictly opposed to black metal, I just skipped over them. With a name like Evergrey, I mean, that's kind of, you could probably say black metal at least, right? I don't know. But yeah, for whatever reason, I skipped over them, and then we started talking, and he was like, oh, they're kind of proggy, and I was like, all right, screw it, let's give it a spin. Here we are. So one thing I can say about this band immediately, and even from the first song, Falling from the Sun, reminded me instantaneously of Devin Townsend and a little bit of Textures. So I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. But one thing I can say about these guys is big, lush, beautiful choruses. Like, they are giving Seven Dust a run for their money as far as big, lush, pretty choruses are considered. And that's pretty much the whole record.
Yeah, this album, and I mean, probably this band, I mean, I don't have like the pedigree in terms of listening to this band for years, but man, huge chorus hooks, giant chorus hooks on virtually every song. And in terms of their style of progressive metal, like, I would still say it's progressive metal, but it's a little bit more like stripped down. It's not as like self-indulgent as a lot of like progressive metal that I've listened to. Like, you're not going to get like a needlessly long like Dream Theater song on here. A lot of the songs kind of hang out in that, like 4 minute to like maybe 7 minute range. Like, that's kind of like the longest track. And a lot of them stick with like very traditional, straightforward song building dynamics, like solid verses, big anthemic chorus, big bridge section with leads and such. And I don't know, it's kind of refreshing, because generally, when I listen to prog, it's generally the very self-indulgent stuff. And that's fun, that's awesome. But I kind of liked hearing this more stripped down, almost like Queensryche-ish style of progressive power metal. But having more like traditional song structure does not mean that this skims on being heavy. In fact, I was kind of shocked as to how heavy this got in terms of the gigantic guitars in here. Like, these things are thick, they're down-tuned, they resonate huge on this album. And there's some like flat out like just seriously heavy riffs in here, like To Become Someone Else. We Are the North. We Are the North has like some flat out like nasty syncopated riffs, almost kind of genty, like a little bit of Meshuggah in there. But those heavier moments are generally used to offset the big choruses in here. There's a lot of like dark to light transitions on here. And it kind of gives this album like its own vibe. Like, yes, it's kind of dark and sullen at points, but It frequently seems like it's reaching towards the light on the choruses, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fantastic vocals on here.
Yeah, the vocals are killer. He sits in this wonderful midpoint range. He does go a little bit high sometimes, a little bit low sometimes, but really he sits in kind of the lane of, say, Chris Cornell if he only had 2 octaves instead of 5. Or Jonas Rensk from Katatonia. Just kind of that crooning midpoint range, and he really does it well. Like, I didn't hear at any time where I thought he was straining his vocals or reaching for a note he couldn't hit. Like, he seems to be really comfortable just staying at a midpoint level, and he presents it uber well.
And there's a lot of different styles that are captured on here. In fact, I would say, like, that is where this album is probably the most progressive in terms of, like, the differences between songs in here, because there's a lot of different styles. Like, you have big anthemic rockers like, you know, Falling from the Sun, say, One Heart, which goes in the Wayback Machine to the 80s, and, like, seriously, if this song came out like 1985, this would be like an MTV anthem. The video would have like pyrotechnics and all sorts of cool lighting and scantily clad women and, you know, just, you know, MTV in the 80s in general.
Teased hair and jean jackets and little remnants of booger sugar on the nose, you know, 80s.
Very 80s. Honestly, I feel like I can't fully appreciate how awesome this song is unless I'm in a Camaro with the T-tops down on the highway. Like, it's that sort of vibe. But you also have, like, more sullen, dark songs like Ghost of My Hero and Cold Dreams, which features Jonas Rensk of Katatonia in an awesome duet. Like,
oh, yeah.
Both of these guys are channeling their most mopey, sullen selves, which, I mean, I've been listening to Katatonia for years. That's Jonas's gear. Like, he does it so damn well.
I mean, they picked a perfect person for the job. I mean, when you think of music like this, we're describing Katatonia all the way, and Jonas just does such a good job anyway. He's probably one of my top 5 clean vocalists in the world.
And they play off of each other in the verses in terms of, like, one goes, the other one goes, and there's some really awesome harmonies in it. But they capture that rainy day, dark, somber mood. Honestly, it's one of my favorite tracks on this album. Like, it really hits hard. But so does Ghost of My Hero, namely because it employs that dark to light transition so well. Opens up with some of the heaviest riffs on the album, like big, droning, doomy riffs. I got more reminded of, like, Paradise Lost and My Dying Bride right out of the gate. Like, you have these very sullen synths in the background, and then everything kind of cuts off to these, you know, electronic drums and more, like, woeful vocals, and then bam, it comes back with this heavy riff, but this big ascending chorus. Like, it's huge. It's trying to reach for the light because it's been raining all day. And literally it's been like, well, I'm going to reference it again. The Artex scene in the Neverending Story. It's that glum and that sad out. And man, does this chorus just, you know, just bring it. Like, it's an absolutely huge moment. And this sort of sway in emotion, it's a frequent thing on this album.
And I like how this band does well with building things too, and generally they use the synths to make the swells larger. Like in To Become Someone Else, starts out sinister and dark. You get, again, crooning vocals, which are simply wonderful, but the synths gradually build in volume, and then when it does kick in the door, it kicks you right in the pee-pee.
Big old, nasty, chuggy riff, a solid groove to it, big chorus, because yes. And again, another moment where I feel like it was just, like, surprisingly heavy. But again, I know next to nothing about this band, so I don't know. This might be just like another day in the office.
Zero.
But it comes in with just this big, catchy, heavy riff. And that's another big thing. It's not just heavy. They are frequently using just great hooks. Like, there's even some nods to, well, Gothenburg Melodeath in the riffs, like just great melodic accents everywhere. And the synths themselves, I think, are exceptional in here. Lots of different textures and sounds and feels and vibes. It's not just like, you know, like a stock synth sound that's just like peppered in there because they had a synthesizer in the studio. Like, this guy is adding layers of just lush melody to the music and frequently changing the settings. Like, there's some good, like, Hammond organ sort of sounds, and say there's also some really cool, like, kind of proggy, almost sci-fi-ish synths on The Night Within. There's a lot of different things the synths add to this, and it just kind of fills out any space in the album where you feel like there could be more melody or more music. And then on top of that, you have just incredible guitar work. Like, and that goes outside of just riffs. There's excellent lead work on here. Every lead that shows up, I think, is excellent. And the cool thing about it is it doesn't show up on every song. Like, some songs don't necessarily require a lead to, kind of capture everything they want to do. They save the leads for songs that just, kind of feel appropriate with it. Like One Heart. One Heart begs for a lead. And honestly, dude, that is like the most 80s rippin' solo, followed by an 80s rippin' harmony.
Yeah.
Like, they had a list just to check off for an 80s throwback anthem, and they nailed it. They even got the gang vocals in the end, just chanting the chorus, which is pretty much a refrain of the title, but it's 80s, whatever, that's fine. I let Judas Priest get away with it, they get away with it here.
I'm gonna go home and get a jean jacket and buy an REO Speedwagon shirt, and it's off to the races. That's a killer anthem.
You better be wearing that in the next video. I'm gonna call your bluff.
All the lead work, really, and again, I like that it doesn't show up on every song because it makes the more powerful songs more unique. All of the leads fit appropriately to all of the songs. Like in the proggy beast, The Night Within, that one, I guarantee he hit every note on the fretboard.
Dude, yeah. That wild lead is just kind of nuts. Like, it's a blur of notes, but it's just rife with melody, and that song is, a really interesting stand-up because it's the first one, I would say, that is just, like, flat-out very proggy. Like, the stuttered kick groove on it, it has more of, like, I kind of like leaning more towards that sort of Dream Theater sound, or maybe, like, solo work at their most proggy. A lot of the stuff on here is a little bit more, like, kind of rock-oriented, at least when it comes down to, like, again, big choruses, solid verses. It kind of stays in, like, one particular mode for the most part, but also very comparable to, like, Devin Townsend. And, another thing that makes it very comparable to Devin Townsend is it's very emotional. It's very heartfelt. You can feel the emotion in all the lyrics, and especially the vocal delivery, like, especially the isolated sections where they drop out everything and just let him croon his ass off. There's moments on there, it kind of reminds me of, like, Phil Collins, so I got another, like, interesting 80s throwback there. And yeah, like, it kind of gives you, like, a really cool connection with this album because there's a lot of, like, good storytelling and, well, I mean, sing-alongs. Sing-alongs are fun. Like, I could definitely see myself singing along to a lot of these songs.
I want to see you in a sing-along.
I do not have the same range as this guy, or any guy.
Well, not with that attitude, no.
No.
As far as production is concerned, this was produced by Adam Nolly Get Good, formerly of Periphery. And you know what that man's capable of if you've ever heard Periphery, at least.
He got good.
He got good.
At production.
Like, this sounds great. Big, meaty guitars. The drums are a bit compressed, but they're still really big and present. They're not clicky. That snare drum is a goddamn cannon. I like where the drums sit in the mix. Again, big, lush, full. I mean, we're talking in a field on top of a mountain, like, sheep and sunshine and clouds and like, just huge. And he did a really good job with all the layering as far as that's concerned. There's not a lot of dead space in this. Even when things do go quiet and the vocalist is allowed to croon a little bit, there's always some sort of melody going on or maybe a little bit of, like, drone in the background. But it's big, rich, full, warm, pretty. Even in its darker moments, like, it's still rich and full. So I don't have any gripes about production.
A lot of this, I would say, is just smart songwriting. Like, it's very efficient. They're not trying to, like, go too far off the rails. They're never losing the sense of the melody. And I really like that. And they're still doing it with a lot of variety. Again, a lot of these songs really stand apart from one another. But there are some songs that stand apart for less than glamorous reasons, I'd say, for me. The song Say, it's a radio nugget. It's a single. And, like, it's not terrible. It's just kind of, like, gloriously inoffensive.
If you stripped away the synths on that song and all the atmosphere and all that, I'm pretty sure it would just be pretty well done butt rock.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a big chorus, even though I think that chorus falls a little bit flat in comparison to other choruses. And the same can be said for Our Way Through Silence, which, kind of closes out this album after Cold Dreams, which, again, I think that's one of the best songs on this album. And it's not just because Jonas is on it. It's because that song's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But Our Way Through Silence is sort of the, flip side of the coin to Cold Dreams. Cold Dreams is dark, it's somber, it's rainy day music. This one, it's very bright, and there's, like, heavy strums, and it's very sing-songy, but it just never lands.
No, there's not much to it. It's really straightforward. Like, as far as everything on this album is concerned, this is probably the most straightforward thing, even outside of the butt rock song. It doesn't really do a whole lot. And to put it after such a strong song, because Cold Dreams is a massive, huge banger of a song, and to put something so, in my opinion at least, lackluster after that, it's just kind of like, why? Why even put it there? Just yeet it.
And yeah, no, it's got like a big sing-along chorus too, but honestly, they've employed better choruses and better songs in here, and songs that are more creative. Yeah. And again, to close out the album, I can understand like wanting to do like sort of a flip in the dynamic from Cold Dreams, like hey, don't worry, no, the sun will come out and everything will be fine. But I kind of didn't want it to be fine. Like, I was content with it just ending as a total bummer. Like, I don't want it ending like a Hallmark movie. I want it ending like Old Yeller. Like, just give me the dark ending. I can handle it. I'm an adult. But Our Way Through Silence wasn't the actual closer. There is an outro track, A Theory of Emptiness, the title track, technically, I guess. And it's sort of an interesting outro. Like, it's mostly, piano and some really cool bass work, and then a spoken word that sounds like the Red Queen from the first Resident Evil movie, just talking about depression. Like, it might be a poem, it might be a speech, I'm not really sure, but
sonnet.
Yeah, like, this album kind of closed with a whimper after being predominantly just very strong across the board.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think they should have opened the record with that, because that is the only time where things are that slow or that sullen, or things like samples are introduced or whatever, because the record opens up really strong with Falling from the Sun, which it could have done after A Theory of Emptiness. Like, they could have started it out on that note and then just had a bunch of bangers that followed after that. I would have also probably gotten rid of that song. To be honest, I would have ended this record with Cold Dreams and called it a day.
Yeah, but, I mean, honestly, outside of that, I really enjoyed this album. And, again, like, I heard Cold Dreams, I jammed that single multiple times before we went into this album, and I really enjoyed that song. So I was pretty optimistic about this, and honestly, this paid off. Like, this is just a really catchy but still very heavy album. And honestly, I might have to get some Evergrey in my collection now. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give this 3.5 stars. And it's a really solid 3.5 that could possibly grow to a 4. I don't know, but I really enjoyed this. Namely because this is just solid songwriting, hooks aplenty. Like, stuff like this is why I still enjoy bands like Seven Dust. Sometimes I just want a good hook of a chorus and good riffs and just, nice energy throughout it. And while Seven Dust definitely has a formula that they latch onto and I think do really well with, this band kind of has that formula, but there's a little bit more to it. Love the production, I love the sound of this album, and I love the emotion that really gets poured into this. Like, you can really feel a lot of these songs. Like, when those big choruses drag you out of the darkness, especially Ghost of My Hero, man, like, that song, the chorus just takes over. But yeah, a lot of just really great songwriting. And again, a lot of variety across this album, just in terms of like different styles they incorporate, like classic heavy metal, way more progressive stuff that is a little bit more power metal centric, stuff that is arguably a little bit doomy and gloomy. It all works on here for the most part. If you're a big fan of, probably Evergrey, because if you're watching this, there's a good chance that you're probably an Evergrey fan, and you're just like, man, these guys don't know anything. Which is very fair. Very fair. But, if you're a big Devin Townsend fan, got like a little bit more like the Genty style of prog, like Textures. Yep. Textures, I think, is pretty fair, too. And just stuff of that ilk, but also like Soil Work, like their later stuff that's a little bit more prog leaning. And maybe Sermon too. If you guys have not heard that band, I recommend checking them out. But yeah, I think I'm going to get some Evergrey in my collection.
I agree with Nick, of course. Had I talked first, I probably would have said a majority of the same shit. But I'm going to go ahead and give this 4 stars. I thought this was a really, really great listen. A very pretty, lush, atmospheric album. It's got great riffs, it's got killer melody. Again, the vocal range that this guy sits in, I think, is perfect for this type of music. The lead work is beautiful, the songs flow really nicely, except for the last 2 tracks, which I would have yeeted. Of course, the song Cold Dreams, I'd never heard it. I've never heard this band before, but I love Jonas Renske. I love Katatonia. What do you want? No, it was just a good listen. There's a lot of good emotion, mostly like it's in the choruses, mostly just like big, soaring, happy kind of feeling. Much like you mentioned for Seven Dust. Seven Dust does have that formula on lock. One of the things I like most about Seven Dust, other than the fact that it's pretty riffy, is the choruses. Like, nobody does that. Except Evergrey. Evergrey gives Seven Dust a run for their money on choruses. I really don't have a whole lot of problems with it. It just sounded great. The production is killer. That big, crisp, lush sound, I don't know, it just does something for me. As much as I like heavy death metal and things like that, I also like good, relaxing, kind of feel-good, powerful music, and that's what this is. So, yeah, if you like Devin Townsend textures, some Soen, Katatonia, Seven Dust, and Sermon, like we said, check out Sermon. I think you'll get the correlation here, but yeah, I dug it. I recommend checking it out. If you're an Evergrey fan, you're probably still going to like this. I'm probably going to check out more of it because if it sounds anything like this, I'm in.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon if you'd like to help us out there. There's a link down below, thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel up in the banner in the bottom right-hand corner. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have t-shirts, both old and new. The old ones are discounted, provided we have your size. And we even have hats, too. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below.
And as always, we here at Thralls of Metal keep pumping out content over and over and over and over because of you guys. We appreciate you, our fans, our subscribers, our friends, our family. This thing has become such a monumental part of our lives, and we never thought that it would get this big, and it still baffles me that it continues to grow, but we appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us. We have more album reviews coming. We have the Meshuggah ranking that we are going to start filming here soon. We got States of Metal. We got Is It Metal, Is It Not Metal? Whatever bullshit this guy decides to do at this time. You'll probably see some more from me later soon. About to get internet. That's going to be cool. But yeah, thank you to all of you. We genuinely appreciate you for being a part of Thralls of Metal.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. And depending on when this comes out, there will be a stream over on Future Ruins channel on the 11th around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we recap our journey to Maryland and talk about every band we saw, which that'll be a lot for me because I saw a lot of bands.
Yeah.
It was an absolute blast. Thank you to everyone that came up and talked to us.
Yeah.
That was absolutely amazing. You guys absolutely rule. And yeah, just thank you to the festival promoters and the bands. Like, the whole experience was amazing, but no spoilers. I'm going to get into that
Right.
more. But yeah, thank you guys so much for everything you guys do, and we will catch you later.